Hi, Kara. Welcome to Skewb. Thank you for coming along today. So the podcast today is going to be about networked for success. So how professional networks accelerate your career. So thank you so much for coming in. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, your career path, which has been amazing, and how you first got involved with all these professional bodies?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Katie. Thank you for having me here today. It's really lovely to be welcomed into your office and the studio. I love the name. As you mentioned, I'm head of water quality. It's quite funny because if somebody had said 10 years ago, do you think this is where you would be in like 10 years time? I'd be like, absolutely not. Not because I didn't want to do it, but didn't know the opportunities that were available and that I would get there in that time. So I originally started out, left university and went traveling. I did chemistry as a background, so a scientist by background. Never had a desire to work in the water industry, let's say, even though my dad works for Anglian Water at the time, still does now actually. And I was when I came back from travelling, I wanted to start on a grad scheme. The one that I had was for Kara Steelworks as a research scientist, but it was in the recession back in 2008. And they couldn't take on any more graduates. So I ended up working in a laboratory. And that was a really good starting point for me because it fundamentally found out I did not want to work in a laboratory. So I applied for numerous different grad schemes, and it was my dad that said, "Oh, Anglian Water do one." It'd be really nice if my dad could have said, "Right, just come and work for us," but it doesn't work like that. I think he gave me the passion to go for it. And I went for the grad scheme at Anglian Water, and I didn't get it. But the great thing about it was I had a really good interview, and they said, look, if there's any other opportunities in the future, then we will invite you along for interview, which I did. Started as a supply science assistant, which as my friends thought I was like a supply teacher. So I basically was part-time and just going in to help people. No, it was meant about the water treatment side. And I got taken to my first reservoir on day one and was expecting somewhere like Pittsford Reservoir. And it wasn't. It was this grass box. And I was like, what on earth is this? And realised how much then I knew little about the water industry. But fell in love with it from day one. Absolutely loved it. I think it brought all of my passions in terms of science, the environment, a purpose, and have changed roles since. I always have been quite ambitious. I wanted to always get involved in as much as I could. So I took various roles in Anglian Water, was there for 11 years doing different scientific roles, some regulatory roles. I did a stint in operations and then realised that I wanted to move out of Anglian Water for an opportunity that came about in terms of a part of the supply chain, and went and worked for a company called ZTech, smaller company, different experience. Was quite an opportunity to do something different that I'd not done before. So it was quite a scary move, and did that for a couple of years, and then moved into South Staffs in Cambridge, where I am now as head of water quality. So lots have happened within that time, but that's kind of a whistle stop tour really.
It's amazing how different opportunities that come around. Like you said that you applied for the grad scheme, you didn't get it, but just because of who you are and what you did in the interview, that got you an opportunity. So that something obviously struck with the interviewers that meant that you got a different job. So these things are I'm a great believer in fate. So it's all about taking even if you don't think that you tick all the boxes for a job, you still go for it because you never know what's going to come from it, and it's great.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned through joining the network, the Institute of Water, was and some of the people that I connected with, was the positive aspects of failure and not seeing it as failure. And up until recently, I've always thought of myself as quite resilient because there's been numerous failures that I haven't got jobs or managed to get involved in aspects that I've gone for. But I've always stopped, reflected and learnt from that. And it's not stopped me. So I always thought of myself as resilient. And it was actually listening to a podcast from Shauna Brenderson, who talked about being anti-fragile. And the difference between being anti-fragile and resilient is that with resilient, you come back, but you come back at the same person you was before. Whereas anti-fragile is you come back stronger and better. And I think that is a big part of professional development. And if anyone is looking to look at CPD, continuing professional development, a big part of that is taking the failure, learning from it, doing something different and going back again. So yeah, absolutely agree. Don't ever see it as something that is seemed to be as failure. We shouldn't really call it failure, but we do, because that's what it is. But it's not a negative in the aspect that we might think it is.
Yeah, and one of the most important things about like going for a job interview as well is getting that feedback as a line manager. And if you're doing the interview side of things, it's so important for that individual, isn't it? 'Cause I think there's been numerous opportunities that I've been through in my career, and I've had no feedback.
Yeah.
That, sorry, the other person was just better in the role. It's like, well, how's that personal to me?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to grow from that? So I think there's probably some training or coaching things for line managers on interviewing that, if it's not readily available already, probably is. But yeah, definitely something there.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And I think sometimes it's about that opportunity in time, which means you can't give that person the opportunity for the role, because actually, if you had time to play with to be able to develop them, they would be ideal. But actually, you need something really quick. But we don't give that honest feedback. We give like, yeah, they were just better than you, or, you know, we need some tangible outcomes, I think, as managers.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jade has just joined the Women's Utility Network.
Yeah. Oh well, I actually joined. Sorry, I've been told my voice is quiet. So
Shuffle forward.
I joined after speaking to someone at the stand at the Utility Week Live. I want to say a couple of years ago, but it might have only been a year ago. But I joined the mentoring scheme probably 6 months ago. But today I've joined the Institute of Water, so that
there you go. Fantastic.
on the course that's on next week on transients, which is obviously the project I've been working on for quite a while. But yeah, it's there's just so many opportunities with the like networking opportunities and webinars and things like that with the Women's Utility Network. I'm looking at the website today for the Institute of Water. There's obviously loads there as well. So
They're absolutely, and I think sometimes it can be that we just don't know about these networks. And I remember my first event that I went to, I was petrified because I didn't know how to network, and I thought networking was that I had to say something really clever and learn something from this person that I could then take back to my boss to say I networked, and it isn't about that at all. And the more we learn that networking is just about building connections, and those connections can be talking about your family, they can be talking about a work project, they can be talking about an experience that you're about to do. But those connections, that building of a collaboration with somebody, will go so far. Personally, professionally, they become your friends, they can become contacts. You know, the reason that I'm here today is from, you know, mine and Katie's connection, and knowing some of you already through other work experiences. Your network is, the bigger you can grow it, the better. And the differences in the places that you can go, like you said, Women Utilities Network, Institute of Water, you don't have to be available just to one. So that's very exciting.
I couldn't agree more, honestly. I think, sorry, Jade, I'm going to have to know. Sorry. I couldn't agree more on the point that you're raising on, you know, networking is not about demonstrating a tangible benefit that you can bring back from that one session at this point. Your story earlier about how the Anglian grad scheme, they couldn't recruit you at that time, but they bore you in mind for later. Like, this is about fostering connections, and it's about seeing relationships that could bear fruit later on, sort of thing. But one of the things that Katie and I talked about before you came in today was both of us are incredibly impressed about how you balance a particularly high stress job in a really challenging industry at the moment, with business plans being put in, with a lot of operational issues and stuff, and finding the time to attend these networking sessions if it doesn't feel maybe that you're getting that immediate like benefit from it. Do you have any tips or advice, or is it a mental attitude that you take into these things? Or
Yeah, I think I'm quite lucky in the fact that my introduction into a network, so my first network was the Institute of Water, was quite early on in my career. So I became invested in the Institute of Water, and something that I often talk to people about is that you need non-negotiables in terms of your work-life balance. And for me, being part of these networks is a non-negotiable, because they give me so much more than if I was not being part of it. I think I'm a better employee and a better line manager, I'm a better leader because of the fact that I'm able to get involved with these networks. So it doesn't become stressful because it feels I actually enjoy it. I get enjoyment out of it. And I think, that plays to different things as well. I do a lot in terms of CrossFit, so I really enjoyed that gym side. It's probably some of the only time that I fully get to switch off for an hour where I'm not thinking about home life or thinking about water quality event or my team. And some of those things something has to slip for that. It's not to say that you don't go to work to go to the gym, but it's making sure that actually if I need to turn up at this time and do an hour later, or if I need to leave when I'm going to leave and not going to stay in the office till 7 o'clock at night, that you do that. And you've got to think about what those things are. And once you found that and got involved in that, it doesn't feel that stress part, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's easy. I think all of us, whatever role you're in, could spend hours and hours, and people say you never get to the end of your to-do list. You might tick off the bits for those days. So it doesn't mean don't feel guilty for it. And I think some of us do feel that, like you said, I'm not getting the tangible benefit now. But there's part of it that is helping you grow personally as well and switch off from day to day, which we all need.
I like that what you're just saying about like the balance. I always feel that I don't achieve work-life balance. I achieve work-life integration of some degree. And something slips, something else is okay. But just going back to the networking, and when Nev just said about hints and tips, what about people that are very nervous about networking? Networking events, if I see an invitation, it's like the dread. I'm just like, what do you say if you don't know anyone in the room? How do you introduce yourself? So have you got any tips for people that just find it really nerve-wracking? So they've got a couple of, comments or something in the back pocket for when they attend an event.
Yeah, so an easy one, I would say, see if you've got a peer or somebody that you can attend event with, because it does make it easier, someone that can vouch for you. I always offer this out and nobody ever takes me up on it, but if any of you are going to a networking event that I'm going to, or can introduce you to, if you want to get involved with the Women's Utilities Network and it's your first one, for example, I'm more than happy to be that person, because it's so much more helpful when you've got somebody there who can say, this is Donna, welcome, this is, so-and-so, and you can get them to connect. And then the more you go to these events, you see the same people. We often say with the water industry, you see the same people, paths cross. So that's a really good piece. Obviously you may not have somebody that is going to these events. So another thing that you can do is ask the organizer for a attendance list before, to see if there's anybody that maybe reach out to them. And see if there's anyone that you can say, I'm going, do you want to meet before? I've known people to do that, and that's really nice that you can meet before walking together. The other aspect is to be honest again with the organizer and just say, look, it's my first time networking at this event. It's hard to do and you think it sounds silly, but actually these things happen. I don't know anybody at the event. Would you mind if I met you and you could introduce me to some people? Or is there anything to help first time networkers? People are more than happy to do that. And again, sometimes it's stepping a bit out your comfort zone, but you've got to do what makes you feel comfortable, and preparing a bit in the time before will actually help. So hopefully
that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm on the mentorship program with one, and I'm not a natural networker. Find it really, it's out of my comfort zone. But she suggested as well, trying to just concentrate on come away with one thing, like someone's name, that you can then go on LinkedIn and connect with them on LinkedIn, so that you've got that kind of it's not really a tangible benefit, but that kind of thing, that then you okay, I remember that name, I'll remember them when I see them next time, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's just something she suggested.
That is such a good idea, and it is about each of the connections you make will build up over time. Yeah. And LinkedIn is such a great platform now to connect with people, because it's a bit like Facebook, whether you hate it or love it, you're able to stay in touch with people that you don't have the time to speak and ring up and catch up with day to day. And you can see about all these great things that people are doing. And if you've got a connection in that way, instead you can stay in touch without physically having to email constantly. And then you may see an event that they're going to and you've already connected. So you can say, yes, I'm going. Do you want to go again? So I really like that. It's a really good one to pick up.
What's the best thing that you've got out of actually like being part of a network, whether it's the Institute of Water or the Women's Utility Network, for you personally?
The best thing is probably, and I've said this as part of the Institute of Water, it's their 80th anniversary this year. And one of the things I said, I wouldn't be where I am today in my career without the Institute of Water. So I think the biggest benefit for me is that it gave me an opportunity to open doors outside of where I worked. You know, I worked at Anglian Water for 11 years. It's quite a scary experience moving out into something different, especially something unknown. But I felt more safe because I built a network, I built a connection that I met somebody, I knew they worked there, I trusted them, I trusted the process. So that was a really great thing, I guess, the connection and the ability to be able to learn about other aspects of the water industry and other roles. And I think another thing, again, what the Institute of Water talk about, and I know I've heard this used at Skewb, which I think is really, it's nice that the two values connect, is terms of being part of a family. And it's very much so that I've got people within the connections that I have now that feel part of a family. It's like a family of what we call ourselves, a family of UK water professionals. And it's really nice to be able to have people that you can go to that you don't need a reason to go to them, but they know you, they've grown with you and you've grown with them, and you can call on each other at different times. It's still more new to one, but those things that, you know, you connect as part of members, you get your allyship around you, and definitely probably connections overall, I would say.
Super. I guess safe space. What's the worst networking experience you've had?
Oh gosh, probably one that's happened a handful of times, when you get connected with somebody that you really think this is not a good connection here,
But they won't stop talking.
they won't stop talking.
Yes.
And you're edging away, and when you go to the toilet and they're there, they come out and they're there, you're like, you're really not getting the hint.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I stalked you, Kara. Apologies for that. Yeah. So true though, isn't it?
It is. I think that is probably the hardest thing. But sometimes, as much as that is not the networking experience you want, they can help you when you're in a room full of people that you don't know, and you're like, okay, you can just talk at me while I look and see if there's anyone else that I recognise or want to connect with. But yeah, it is those people, unfortunately.
And how do you think that Skewb can get more involved in these networks as well? Because I think there's lots of great people that work across multiple different utility sectors. So how do we get more involved with both of those?
I think one of the things is getting an awareness for people that you're out there, and that people get to know who you are. I often find with consultancies or even projects that happen within companies, unless you're directly involved, sometimes companies don't speak about it. So you might have a great relationship with a company, but a handful of people, but then there will be a handful of other people that would be really good to have that connection with. So I think how networks can help that is by introducing you to their members and getting your name out there. They can be an integration between yourself and a network that can promote you, promote, like, not just promote offerings that Skewb do, but also promote the people and connect. It's like a connection point and a networking, connect the people of Skewb to others within the industry, whether that's whatever utility that is in. And it'd be really great to have that as an opportunity to hold an event and show people about Skewb. And as well, I guess there's learning for both in terms of people from the industry, but also Skewbers to learn from others as well.
So, Kara, from a South Staff's Water perspective, is there anything that you think the company is particularly going to lean into this year in terms of networking? Or is there anything that they'd want to get out of, like opportunities coming up in the next few months? Is there anything on the calendar that you're really excited about in your role? What's the company got going on?
Yeah, I think we're really lucky in terms of South Staff's group that we've got Barry Hayward, who is heavily involved with the Pipeline Industry Guild, who's chair for that. And we've also got Charlie Mayer, who is coming in as the Midlands president president for the Institute of Water. So we've got two really influential people within the business of part of these two great organisations. And for me, what that means is that we are able to offer our employees the opportunity to be able to grow and develop outside of the offerings of South Staff's group. As you know, being part of a smaller company, we don't have all of the offerings in-house. So it's really, really important for us as a company that we're able to offer to our employees opportunities to grow outside of the company that they're in. We don't want people to become insular. We want people to get a wider industry understanding. And the great thing about these networks, it's not just the water industry, it is utilities as a whole. So it would be really nice to pinpoint some of that. And the fact that we've got the buy-in from our group leaders is really pivotal in that.
That's great. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming to Skewb. It's been really, really lovely hosting you today.
Thank you.
Please come again.
I will do. Thank you.